Again, the What It Takes Radio Company is proud to present the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience, how to be a world-class Jesus entrepreneur. And right now we go to adventure number 2, Principles and Practices, how to think like the master entrepreneur. Here we go. Now we're on Module 2, Episode 2, Adventure number 2. How to be a world-class Jesus entrepreneur as we seek the Jesus entrepreneur experience, and we choose to do that. Today, right now, thinking like a master entrepreneur. Please remember this. This is a truth claim. Jesus was and is the master entrepreneur. St. Paul was indeed a master entrepreneur. And that's something that we should aspire to be too, if that's what you feel you've been called to do, if you feel that there is a choosing in you that is leading you that way. So let's begin again and review. Are you serious? Have you thought about some of the things that I've put before you? Now, a good, great question. What is clear to you now? I will ask you that all the time. And I did that for many years as a business performance coach to clients and colleagues. Since we last met, since we last talked, now since our last presentation, is there anything that is clear to you now? What is clear to you now? All right. Fundamental to being an entrepreneur and fundamental to success in life and even fundamental to life in God's great world is that we win the mind game. Fundamental truth has been taught throughout the last few decades in business life and management, going back to when people actually started to think about this. What you think about, you become. A man named Earl Nightingale, who really gave birth as a broadcaster like me, and then helped people to understand what to do in this modern world. And that's what he made his mark. He called it the secret. And the secret was very simple. What you think about, you become. And many people embrace that. What a great idea. Of course, it was a great idea, but it was about 2,000 years old. Jesus and Paul made that very clear. Fill your mind with good things. What you think about, what's inside of you, you will become. So in all of my coaching, I oftentimes had them think, okay, how can we win the mind game? How can we get our minds right, our beliefs right, so that we can get our behavior, our performance right? Indeed, what you think about, you become. So, how do we handle that? What do we do next? Well, what I want you to understand is that that will be how we begin. We will ask ourselves the question, not just what would Jesus do? That's a great question. But as one of my mentors taught me, he said, a better question would be, what would Jesus do if he were you? If he were a plumber, you're a plumber. What would Jesus do if he were like you? And that even makes it clear, because then we have to know that Jesus became one of us, like us, and not only that, with us. And so if we're going to try and figure out what to do, what would Jesus do if he were like you and me? And more importantly, not only what would Jesus do, how would Jesus think? And so part of our episode adventure, part of our doing the work is to try to say, didn't that Paul character have the mind of Christ? See if you can think like he thinks. Not only follow him, not only do what he tells you to do, obey him, follow, not only trust him, but can you think like him? So what we want to do is to come to the point where we're making an attempt to think like Jesus. Here he is now. He's the coach. He's the master entrepreneur. In effect, let's just remind ourselves. He began, and in 3 years, he built a world-class company that has lasted for 2,000 years. May I say that for just memory again? Yes, Jesus began about the age of 30, and it's very interesting to try and think about what he did between the ages of 12, which was the last part of the story that we had, until the age of 30, when he declared his mission. Yeah. What happened during that time? What went through him? What were some of his experiences? We don't know. I think it's good to think about that and perhaps to maybe see if we can find some special wisdom about that. But what happened in those 18 years? Well, I think I know. He was in the construction business. He was in the housing business. He was in the repair business. He was running a small business, a family business. That's what he was doing. He must have done it well. And he must have learned a lot of things about life and business, because the story seems to indicate that perhaps his father died quite young, and he being, the oldest child, he had to run the show. And that was his job. And so that's good for us also to say, wonder what he learned. Because at around the age of 30, and then he worked for about 3 years, and what he accomplished was he built a business, a company of people. And they had a mission. And in 3 years, he said, I've finished it. The franchise is now yours. Go with it. I'm going away. By the way, I'll send you some power from on high. I'll send you something that is almost from a different world. You will get my very spirit, and it will come to you. And you will know it when it comes to you. And that is what will sustain you. So, go get them, guys. Do the work. Do what I told you. Think like I think. Do what I do. Teach like I teach. See if in some way you can be little imitations of me. That's what he did. So now we're going to ask the question, hey, how did Jesus think? And what I'm going to try and do, and this module will probably go a little longer than about 20 minutes. In fact, I'll break it up into 2 parts so that you can think about it quite a bit. But what I would like to do is to ask you to go with me into my adventure of trying to come up with what I would call the principles and the practices, and then eventually the prayer of the Jesus entrepreneur. I simply ask God to say, okay, Jesus, if you were here and you taught them how to pray, if they said, hey, teach us how to think, teach us how to think, what would you teach them? What are some of the things you would tell them as not only men and women of the mission, but followers of me and people seeking to do the good things that I've asked you to do and that God the Father is encouraging us to do and wants us to do? What would he teach them? And I came up with 7 of them. 7 things that are what I would call the principles and practices of Jesus the entrepreneur. And as part of the Christian Entrepreneur Network, we go out into the world and say, here are the things that will help you to become more fully alive. Think on this. Think like this. These are the principles to live by. These are the practices to put into life. This is the performance you need to give. And so that's the question that is before us. I'm hoping that right now your mind is beginning to run into that. Yeah, what would they be? Now here's another reason I want you to do this if you want to be a world-class entrepreneur. If you are going to start a business, you need to do the same thing. You need to teach your people how to think, what to believe, what's truly important. It's not just how to do the job and sell the product or deliver the service. How to think, how to be, how to do. And obviously, you would like all of them to be in the 3%. That's right. You want that kind of focused people. Now, Jesus knew that those kind of people were rare. He discovered a lot of people came for the food and they came for the good stuff. But when he called for the mission, hey, I think I've got some other things I need to do. And he never chased anybody down and said, think about it again. He just simply said, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to achieve the things of goodness and greatness and the things of God. This is what it takes. If you've got what it takes, follow me. Think like me. Do things like me. Be prepared to suffer like me. Be prepared to make your mark in the marketplace. Now, what we have also done is we've looked for kind of a symbol that will help us. And we came on one that's very obvious. It's the diamond. Yeah, the diamond. Now, what I would like you to do, because it's good to have a mental image whenever you're trying to learn something new, is think of a big, beautiful diamond in the shape of a diamond. And of course, some of you may know that there is a world-famous diamond, and it's called the Hope Diamond. That's the world. The Hope Diamond. That's the word. The Hope Diamond. That's what we're seeking to be. People who are kind of like a diamond that gives hope. Now, the diamond doesn't give hope, but if we are living like a diamond, we can give hope. So we have, in effect, a 4-pointed, but you will discover a 4-point diamond, but a 5th point inside. So think about that. In fact, on your little chart right now, start putting together a diamond, because we're going to go through the 4 points of the diamond. Also, please keep in mind there's a wonderful story picture of what it's like with the diamond. And here it is. Remember, in effect, I loved it from the film Shawshank Redemption when the character says, remember, it's like a diamond. And remember, a diamond is only a piece of coal, but it's under great pressure for a long, long time. Under great pressure for a long, long time. Again, something we need to remember. Now, with that in mind, at the bottom of the diamond is just that, the mind of the maker. That's right. Jesus is a maker. He makes things. He's a maker. The mind of the master maker, the master entrepreneur. And we've come up with 7. And so right now, I'd like to introduce you to the first 2. And then in the second part of the module, we'll finish that up. But here we go. Number 1. We are made to serve others. My favorite recognition and recollection of this goes actually back to my days in Minnesota. Actually, there was a guy in Minnesota who became a world-famous singer. His name was Bobby Zimmerman, and he actually went to school with a friend of mine and was a boy in a small town in Minnesota. And he went off and became a music star. You don't know him as Bobby Zimmerman, but some of you know I'm talking about Bob Dylan. And at one of the times in his life, he wrote a song through his kind of Jesus experience, you've got to serve someone. And that's true. You have to serve somebody. We are made to serve others. And you say, I'm not serving anybody but myself. And someone actually told me that in a seminar. And with a little bit of wit, and maybe a little stronger than that, I said, well, I hope you serve yourself well, because you will be the only customer you ever have. Hey, we are made to serve others. Who are you called to serve? That's a principle. Jesus came to serve and to save. He came to serve us. Remember that. We are made to serve others. We're not made to serve ourselves. If you want to be successful, it will be because you serve well. You serve others. Now, there's more we could talk about, but I think you get that point. We are made to serve others. Now, number 2. We are spirit beings. A man named Teilhard de Chardin said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. You are primarily spiritual. That's the real world. That's the real you. You are a spirit being. I remember when I had the opportunity, and of course there was responsibility of the last words at my mother's funeral, and I put my hands on the coffin and said, Mom's human experience has come to an end, but her spiritual experience goes on. That's right. We are primarily human beings. No, we are primarily spiritual beings who are having a brief human experience. So everything you say and everything you do should be rooted in the fact that you are a spirit being first. Now think how that would change everything. if you really lived and worked that way. Yeah. How would you be different? But it's true. We are made to serve others. Number 2, we are spiritual beings. Having a brief human experience, having a brief entrepreneurial expression of our life. But the most important thing is that we live the life that we were made to live as spiritual beings. Again, that can change everything. Well, there we go. Thank you. This has been 20 minutes, as I promised, but we've got more to go. So take a little break, and we'll come back to part 2 of adventure number 2 and more thoughts and ideas about how to think like a Jesus master entrepreneur. Please reach out to us. I'm Stan Houston. StanHouston@gmail.com, witradio.net, 520-664-7002, USA.